You ever see a man who just wasn't afraid of anything? I mean, anything. Bullets, prison, losing everything he ever built. That was Cassius Thorne, or as we called him back in the Ironclad district. Cashy spent 20 years building an empire, Thorne Infrastructure, on the bones of his past, trading concrete for criminal deeds. Or so he thought. The day everything broke, it started small. A bruised Eli Vance, my right-hand man, Cash's most trusted heavy lift specialist for 15 years, he walked into Cash's office, and his arms, man, they were painted. Dark purple and green roadmaps of pain, winding up his forearms. Eli wasn't a soft guy. He came up on the streets with us. He knew pain. But this was different. Bosk, I gotta tell you something, Eli said, voice barely above a whisper, eyes glued to the scuffed leather on Cash's desk. The hydraulic press, malfunctioned. Alistair said it was just paperwork. Not to worry you, Cash. He didn't miss a beat. His street instincts, the ones he thought he buried under 2 decades of legitimate business, they roared to life. In the old days, unexplained damage on your crew meant someone was sending a message, but Eli's hands were shaken. Not from fear of Cash, never that, but something else entirely. Eli was the kind of man who'd stare down a firing squad. What he told Cash next, it didn't just rattle the blueprints. It cracked the foundation of everything Cash thought he knew about the world he'd built. Cash had traded bullets for schematics, but the rules of the game, they hadn't changed. They just wore nicer suits. He walked the maintenance yard the next morning. The smell of diesel and hot steel, the rhythm of the machinery, it was his symphony. Every worker nodded, not out of the old fear but genuine respect. Fair wages, better safety standards than anywhere else in Sentinel City. Then Marcus, my foreman, pulled him aside. Morning, Mr. Thorne. Everything's clockwork, boss. Except Alistair Finch, the corporate hire. Clean-cut, impressive credentials, union contacts, the perfect facade to win those huge municipal bids. He was supposed to legitimize Thorne Infrastructure, but watching him now, in his perfectly tailored shirt, addressing the crews, his smile was too sharp, his gestures too practiced. Cash's gut, the one that kept him alive on the south side, was screaming a warning. He's been changing shift assignments, Marcus whispered, glancing over his shoulder. Safety protocols, too. Says it's efficiency optimization. Didn't clear it with you. That was the first red flag. Cash managed by care, not control. These weren't just employees. They were his family, his community. The second flag, the injury reports. Boss, the reports this month. They're all what? Cash asked, his voice low. They're all our guys. None of Alistair's preferred crew. Cash stopped dead. Patterns meant everything on the street. They meant intent. They meant a hit. Eli Vance, hydraulic failure, lacerated forearms. Damon Carter, crane, cable fray, bruised ribs. Kevin Washington, electrical shock, burns. All black workers, all veterans, all working under Alistair's shiny new efficiency rules. And it gets worse. T.I. Marcus continued, flipping a file. Check the timing. Every single one happened when Alistair was supervising their section directly. The pattern crystallized a systematic strike, who designed to break his people, and ultimately, break the company. Cash barely had time to process the betrayal when the sound cut through the noise, a raw, primal terror that took him straight back to the darkest parts of his past. Eli, somebody help. He ran toward the main rigging area. Eli lay crumpled beside the massive press machine, his right arm bent at an angle that looked wrong. Blood was soaking the gray concrete. The press's safety cage was twisted like a metal pretzel. What the hell happened? Cash dropped to his knees, his hands checking pulse and breathing skills that never left him. Drum assembly broke loose. Marcus gasped, trying to staunch the flow of blood. The pin, it just snapped. Eli's unfocused eyes found Cash's boss. Wasn't supposed to. Alistair said the machine was. Don't talk, man. Ambulance is coming. But Cash was already focused on the machine. 20 years of reading crime scenes taught him to see the details. The pin hadn't just broken. The metal showed clear stress fractures, deliberate damage, designed to fail catastrophically. Whereas Alistair, Cash's voice was the whisper that used to precede a bullet. Right here. Terrible accident. Alistair Finch appeared, his face a perfect mask of corporate concern. These older machines, metal fatigue. Metal fatigue doesn't make cuts this clean. Cash stood, casting a shadow over the younger man. This press was serviced last week. I signed the inspection report. Look, I know you want to protect your guys, but sometimes, these people just don't follow protocols the way they should. It's cultural. They're more casual about rules. The words hung in the air, a lit fuse. Every worker within earshot froze. Marcus's hand stilled on Eli's wound. The yard went silent. Cultural. Cash tasted the poison in the word. The old familiar fury, the one that made him feared it, began to rise. This wasn't about territory. This was about his family, his community, being systematically targeted by someone who thought he was too stupid to notice. Cultural. Cash repeated the word slowly. Eli Vance has been operating heavy machinery longer than you've been out of business school. You think he casually ignored safety protocols? The ambulance sirens were getting closer. Cash looked down at Eli. This is on me, he promised himself in Eli's pale face. That someone. 2 days later, Cash was operating under the radar. Back in the grime and grease of his own yard as self-appointed quality inspector, Marcus had pulled the receipts. Every damaged machine was serviced by the same outside contractor, Hartwell Industrial, formed 6 months ago, referenced by Alistair Finch. Fraudulent certifications, amateur work. It wasn't incompetence. It was a methodical setup. He found it all. The electrical panel that shocked Kevin rewired with tape. Ground connections deliberately loosened, and the crane cable that nearly killed Damon, it hadn't snapped from where. Multiple internal strands were cut clean, leaving the outer wrapping intact. Under stress it would fail, but to an insurance adjuster, it would look like maintenance negligence. This wasn't just racism. This was a corporate assassination plot, designed to destroy Thorn Infrastructure's safety rating and drive Cash into bankruptcy. That night, Cash was hidden in an abandoned building across the street, surveillance mode activated. At 9:15 p.m., a white van pulled up. Out stepped Alistair Finch and 2 guys in Hartwell uniforms. They moved with purpose, documenting their work. They were professional saboteurs. Cash's gut churned when he watched them tamper with the crane. Damon was scheduled to operate Monday morning. They're planning the next one. He waited until they left. Then, with Marcus, they spent hours documenting the sabotage under floodlights, weakened hydraulic lines, bypassed safety sensors, control circuits modified for delayed failure. Jesus, boss, Marcus whispered, examining a rigged brake system. If Damon uses this Monday... He won't, Cash said grimly. But first, I need to know who's paying Alistair to kill my people. At 2:30 a.m. Cash stood outside Alistair's office. Lockpicking skills he hadn't needed in 20 years returned. Like muscle memory. Click, click. The door opened. Alistair's workspace was immaculate, but Cash saw what others missed: the filing cabinet slightly askew. He cracked the computer password: efficiency 2024, of course. Inside, spreadsheets, projected accident scenarios, estimated insurance payouts. Eli Vance, $45,000 projected payout. Damon Carter, $125,000 projected payout for permanent disability. Alistair wasn't just causing accidents, he was calculating the exact financial impact required to crater the company. Then, the final folder: acquisition partners, correspondence. Danny, the timeline looks good. The Sterling Group is prepared to purchase Thorn assets once liability forces a distressed sale. Your fee remains at $500,000. Signed, the Sterling Group. The Sterling Group, the old rivals. They wanted Cash's contracts, but lacked the community trust. So, they decided to steal it by destroying him from within. Cash found the last piece of evidence: detailed blueprints of the main building, marked with structural vulnerabilities and controlled demolition points. This wasn't just corporate espionage. They were planning to literally destroy the building, blaming it on accumulated structural damage, probably with the night shift still inside. Footsteps in the hall. Alistair and his goons were back. Cash slipped out the window, his old exit strategies serving him well. He had the proof, but he had to use it perfectly, or they'd all be dead. Nachi si nan kung thung jate hun dung jate enget, kunting jo vieting bgc chan. The morning safety briefing. Alistair was mid-sentence talking about new efficiency protocols. When Cash walked to the front of the assembled workers, he didn't speak. He just set a banker's box filled with evidence on the table. Alistair's practiced smile vaporized. Morning, T didn't expect you at the briefing. Cancelled it, Cash said, his voice quiet, carrying the kind of authority that commanded respect more than fear ever could. Had something more important. The workers sensed the shift. Marcus stepped closer. Alistair, I've been doing some quality control inspections, found some interesting things. Cash pulled out the first photo, the deliberately cut crane cable. Antoine, you said your cable just snapped, right? Turns out, normal load doesn't create cuts this precise. Someone weakened this cable intentionally. A wave of shock rippled through the crowd. T, this is highly inappropriate, Alistair protested, his voice straining. Inappropriate. Like this. Cash held up the insurance spreadsheet. Investigation into projected payouts for each worker's accident. Damon Carter, $125,000 projected payout for permanent disability. Silence. Damon Carter stepped forward, his massive frame radiating fury. You calculated how much money my accident would be worth. That's not what that document. Alistair stammered. Shut up, Marcus roared, the voice of the old streets cutting through. Let him finish, Cash continued, methodically presenting the evidence. Forged maintenance records, correspondence with the Sterling Group, and finally, the blueprint. Structural analysis for controlled building collapse during a night shift operation. The mood in the yard shifted from shock to controlled rage. They weren't just employees. They were hunted. Alistair. Cash's voice dropped to the dangerous whisper. You want to tell these men why the Sterling Group is paying you $500,000 to destroy their workplace? Alistair's composure shattered. This is insane. You think because you used to be some street thug, you can intimidate me with fake documents. People know what you are, Terrell. You're still just another ignorant criminal who got lucky. These people follow you because they're too stupid to know better. He spat the racial slur. You'll never be anything but a Cash didn't flinch. He let the silence absorb the hate. Alistair, Cash said, his voice perfectly, terrifyingly calm. You made one mistake in all your planning. He stepped closer. You assumed I was just a dumb criminal you could manipulate. But see, I spent 20 years learning to read people who wanted to kill me. 20 years studying how conspiracies work, how money flows, how predators hunt. A slight cold smile touched Cash's lips. You're not smart, Alistair. You're just racist enough to think you were the only one in this yard with a brain. Police sirens wailed in the distance. They were for Alistair. The real difference between us, Alistair, isn't that I used to be a criminal and you're legitimate. It's that I protected my community, and you tried to destroy it. Alistair Finch went white as the squad cars pulled into the yard. Cash turned to his workers, his family. Anyone who wants to keep working for a company that puts people before profit, be here tomorrow morning. Every single worker raised his hand. Nechu si nan Turkle blues. En hang ko them fun. Ken trombone turg. Bm mang tin zai dung. 3 weeks later, the transformation began. Cash stood before the crew, not as a boss, but as a leader. Gentlemen, we're going to rebuild this company the right way. Not the street way, not the corporate way, the way working people deserve. First change, he made Eli Vance, his arm still in a sling, the head of safety and worker protection, with full veto power over every single operation. The applause was deafening. I don't have the degrees, boss.